We are less than 2.5 hours away now from the end of Title 42 tonight.
Our legal analyst, Dan Eaton, is here today with more on what many people are looking at with this story and what they're facing tonight legally in the coming days. Dan?
Right. Carla, why don't we just start with this whole 9 o'clock? Wait a minute, I thought it was 11:59. It's because everything's driven by the East Coast.
Right.
So let's be clear on why we're talking about that. This is not New Year's Eve where you celebrate it in different places and in different times. So
what exactly is going to happen, if anything, when that clock strikes 9 p.m.?
What happens is that we go back to the system that we have in place, Title 8 or the immigration law, and you say, well, if you have a credible fear of persecution, then you can move on to the next level where you go through the years-long asylum process, and that's where you may be able to remain, you get to remain in this country while that process is going forward. The problem, of course, is that to deal with this massive surge, the Biden administration is trying to put into place new regulations, but those regulations...
Right. One of them is to require migrants to try to seek asylum in a third country before crossing into the United States. If you pass through another country to get here, you must seek asylum there first. There are challenges. Well, there's an expression out there. ACLU has mentioned that they're going to pursue a challenge for this. Can this stand up?
There's a question. Obviously, that's why you have courts. That's the interesting thing, is you do have all three branches of government that are involved. You have the executive, you have Congress, which isn't really doing a whole lot there, and then you have the courts ultimately. When you talk about seeking asylum in a third country, it's also being denied asylum in that third country before you can move on to the next step. And that's why there's this concern that this is going to create a massive backlog at the end of the day if these restrictions that are in place are ultimately struck down. We already have an overwhelmed system. It's only going to get worse.
And these migrants, as we can see from our aerial footage and as we've been reporting for the last couple of weeks, they're already here at our border. So they haven't perhaps had a chance to try and seek asylum in another country. So what is the reality for them?
A lot of people are trying to use this app, which is amazing if you think about the number of smartphones that must be out there right now to get appointments to try to make their pitch for asylum. They're going to use expedited removal, which is actually in the law already, in the 1996 law, that says if you can't show a credible fear of persecution, back you go. But here's the interesting thing about back to Title 8 is that there are now consequences if you flunk. Right. There are potential criminal prosecution. There is this 5-year ban if you flunk. There weren't any of those consequences with Title 42, which just back you go. But it only took 10 minutes to process a Title 42 removal. It takes 6 times that or more to deal with these interviews. You do the math. You're talking about more people, 6 times more, and you're talking about a serious years and a serious crisis that you have. Humanitarian, legal, all the above.
Yeah, CBP said they were expecting 10,000 people to try to cross per day with this. Part of the problem here is we're doing these things, these updates by executive order. Right. We haven't had any significant legislation in a long time. Are our immigration laws just broken?
Carlo, they are, because we are talking about decades-old immigration laws that haven't kept up with what is going on globally with respect to the desire to come to this country. And I would say with what's going on globally, I'm talking about now. Obviously, there was no Russia war in Ukraine that was inducing or getting Ukrainians to try to come over here. There are a lot of people who are under persecution because of global events that didn't exist in the decades that are decades ago that our immigration laws were last updated.
As these new policies are put into place and they're going to be challenged, as we understand, in the courts, what's going to happen with the asylum seekers? What happened with Title 8 prior to Title 42? Where did these people live? Where were they housed while they waited months, sometimes years, for the asylum process to take place?
You don't really know. I mean, there's this phrase, which I don't like, but that it is used, catch and release, which is this idea that these people were detained and so forth, and while the asylum process was working its way out, they were put in our midst, in the community, of course, with the idea that, in their minds, that they eventually would be able to run out the clock and maybe even stay beyond that. And so that's what's going to continue to happen. They'll be housed in detention. detention centers and so
Detention
forth.
centers, will their sponsors?
With their sponsors and so on. There are a variety of different places where they are going to be housed. The question is what happens after that. Are they all going to be able to get in front of an immigration judge, which is part of the executive system? But these executive orders that you talked about, Carlo, they're just not durable. They can change like that. They can be challenged.
And on that note, Dan Eaton, our legal analyst, thank you for some perspective on this from the legal aspects, because it looks like a mess on many levels.
Mess is the word, yes.
Appreciate
Will
your
we
time.
have the capacity? Still so many questions and so much uncertainty. Thanks so much, Dan.
You're welcome.